In the world of finance, we often talk about undervalued assets companies with immense potential that the market has yet to recognize. We spend countless hours analyzing balance sheets, income statements, and market trends, searching for that hidden gem poised for a breakout. But have you ever applied that same rigorous analysis to the most critical asset in your portfolio, yourself? Today, we are not discussing stocks, bonds, or macroeconomic indicators. Instead, we are turning the lens of a seasoned investor inward, examining the fundamentals of personal transformation. The topic is not about financial capital, but human capital. It is about how you can stand up and become someone who will surprise everyone, including yourself. This isn't a motivational speech. It's a strategic framework for personal growth, grounded in the principles of accountability, risk management, and long-term value creation. Just as a company must evolve to thrive, you too must be willing to undergo a profound restructuring to unlock your true market value. The first step in any sound investment analysis is a candid assessment of the asset's current state. I want you to conduct a profound reflection, one that goes far beyond a superficial glance in the mirror. Ask yourself, with the brutal honesty of an auditor, if the person you see today is truly the person you want to be. Are you operating at peak performance? Or are you an underleveraged asset, held back by self-imposed limitations? We often find a significant gap between our current reality and our potential, a delta filled with untapped capabilities, squandered opportunities, and dormant ambitions. This gap is not a sign of failure. It is an indicator of upside potential. However, this potential is often held captive by invisible forces, the inertia of habit, the risk aversion of fear, and the sunk cost fallacy of old expectations. We cling to familiar patterns not because they are optimal, but because they are predictable. This is the equivalent of holding a legacy, underperforming stock simply because you've owned it for years. Recognizing this untapped potential as the catalyst for change, the moment you realize that your personal enterprise is ripe for a strategic overhaul. This brings us to a harsh but necessary truth, a principle as fundamental in personal development as supply and demand is in economics. Your actions, and your actions alone, are the ultimate barrier between you and the extraordinary person you aspire to be. It is tempting to construct elaborate narratives that externalize our shortcomings, blaming market conditions, unfair competition, or a lack of fortunate circumstances. We tell ourselves that if only the economy were better, if only our boss recognized our talent, if only we had a different upbringing, our trajectory would be different. This is a cognitive bias, a convenient fiction that absolves us of responsibility. In reality, your life is a lagging indicator of your decisions. True, sustainable growth, the kind that compounds over a lifetime, demands that you step outside your comfort zone and intentionally embrace discomfort. A life lived in the pursuit of absolute safety is a portfolio allocated entirely to low-yield government bonds. It minimizes risk, but it also guarantees minimal returns. This strategy doesn't lead to prosperity. It leads to a vicious cycle of stagnation and regret, a slow erosion of your most valuable asset share potential. The entire foundation of this personal transformation, this strategic restructuring of your life, rests upon two non-negotiable pillars: absolute responsibility and the courage to exit your comfort zone. Let's first dissect the concept of absolute responsibility. This is more than just admitting a mistake. It is the complete and total ownership of your life's balance sheet, your assets, liabilities, wins, and losses. It means ceasing all blame directed at external factors for your current circumstances. The market is what it is. Your past is what it was. These are sunk costs. From this moment forward, you must operate from the understanding that your choices, your habits, and your responses to events are the sole determinants of your reality. Just as a CEO is ultimately accountable for a company's performance, you are the CEO of your own life. Every decision, from what you consume to how you allocate your time, is an executive order shaping your future. Accepting this level of responsibility is profoundly empowering. It shifts you from being a passive spectator of your life to the active architect of your destiny. The second pillar, the courage to leave your comfort zone, is the engine of growth. In finance, there's a clear relationship between risk and return. To achieve higher returns, one must be willing to assume calculated risks. The same principle applies to personal development. Growth never ever happens in a state of comfort. Comfort is the enemy of progress. It is the realm of complacency and stagnation. Courage is not the absence of fear. Smart investor is never fearless. Courage is the discipline to act in the face of fear. To execute your strategy, even when market sentiment is negative and your emotions are screaming at you to retreat to safety. Success isn't born from grand heroic gestures. It is forged in the crucible of small daily steps that consistently push you just beyond your familiar limitations. Each time you choose the difficult but necessary action over the easy and comfortable one, you are making a small investment in your future self. These are the micro habits that, compounded over time, lead to exponential growth. This brings us to the mechanics of execution. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Their power lies not in their immediate impact, but in their relentless consistency. A single workout won't transform your health, just as a single trade won't make you a millionaire. But a disciplined regimen of daily exercise or a consistent investment strategy, executed over years, will produce results that seem miraculous to the outside observer. Your identity is not shaped by sporadic high-intensity decisions made in moments of inspiration. It is forged by the small, seemingly insignificant actions you perform every single day. The person who reads 10 pages a day becomes a well-read individual. The person who saves 10% of every paycheck becomes financially independent. Waiting for the right time or for a burst of motivation is a losing strategy. The market doesn't wait for you to feel ready. You must build systems and habits that operate independently of your mood, ensuring that you are consistently making deposits into your personal growth account, day in and day out. To enact this change effectively, you need a clear and well-defined strategy. A vague goal like "I want to be better" is as useless as a business plan that says "we want to make more money." You must clearly define the person you want to become. What are their attributes? What skills do they possess? How do they spend their time? Think of this as creating a prospectus for your future self. Once you have this clear vision, you can reverse engineer the habits required to become that person. If you want to become a financially savvy individual, your habits might include reading the Wall Street Journal for 30 minutes every morning, tracking your expenses daily, and automating a weekly transfer to your investment account. The key is to start small. Trying to implement a dozen drastic, overwhelming changes at once is the equivalent of over-leveraging your portfolio on a highly speculative petite essay recipe for a catastrophic wipeout. Instead, focus on incorporating one or two small, manageable habits. Master them until they become automatic, then build upon that foundation. This is the principle of gradual, sustainable scaling. A crucial part of this strategic pivot involves portfolio management, which in this context means letting go of your past. In investing, we call this avoiding the sunk cost fallacy, the tendency to continue an endeavor if an investment in money, effort, or time has already been made. Clinging to old regrets, past failures, or emotional burdens is the personal equivalent of holding on to a losing stock in the hope that it will one day recover. Even when all fundamental analysis indicates it won't, these past grievances are non-performing. Assets that drain your emotional capital and occupy valuable mental real estate. They tether you to an outdated version of yourself, trapping you in beliefs and narratives that are no longer relevant to your future growth. To truly transform, you must be willing to write off these losses, acknowledge them, learn from them, and then divest. This emotional and mental house cleaning is essential. It frees up the resources, your focus, energy, and willpower needed to invest in the new habits and behaviors that will build your future. In the final analysis, the person you will be 5, 10, or 20 years from now is not a matter of fate or fortune. It is a direct and predictable outcome of the choices you make and the actions you take today. Your future self is being constructed in this very moment with every decision you make. Do you hit the snooze button, or do you get up and execute your morning routine? Do you scroll through social media, or do you read a book that expands your knowledge? Do you make an excuse, or do you take responsibility? Each choice is a building block. Transformative change doesn't begin with a sudden windfall or a lucky break. It begins with a single, courageous decision. The decision to stop accepting the status quo and to start investing in your own potential. It is sustained by persistent, disciplined effort. the daily compounding of small, positive habits. The journey from who you are to who you can be is the single greatest investment you will ever make. Begin today. Execute with discipline. And become the person who surprises everyone.